This episode of Covenant, Way of the Ancient Heart, has descriptions of warfare, blood, gore, and other injuries. Listener discretion is advised.
Blood is thicker than water.
Yes, of course. We all knew that. It was rare we ever said it in full. The blood of this covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. Her armor gleamed gold in the dawnlight as she spoke to us. Her voice is what draws us closer. Her cause compels us to fight. Our healer hummed and tapped lightly on her drum, making our hearts beat as one. Our gatherings were always a sight to behold. It was times like these that I felt the closest to my heart sisters.
Blood is thicker
Blood
than
is
water.
thicker than water. We repeated it. Some of us whispering solemnly, others rising to their feet and shouting into the breaking day. Yes, we have fought and bled in each other's loving arms, and still we rise. The armored angel gestured. Again. Cry out again. Blood is thicker than water. To others, it may be nothing more than words. But to me, to us, it means everything.
She shook the haze from her head and drew a long gulp of tea onto her tongue. Nineve found it horribly difficult to sleep as of late. Her dreams had become vivid and strange, and rather than feel rested, she simply felt drained. Nineve would wake herself, from fear, from anticipation, and from frustration. Restlessness would creep like spiders in her bones until she couldn't sleep, and she would wander the village in moments before dawn, attempting to purge the nightmares from herself. Step by step, and night by night, Nineve had scaled up the hill that shadowed the eastern side of the meadow. The grasses here seemed softer than the ones the children played in, and the freshness of the dew washed away what was left of her sleep. The pull of escaping her nightmares was too much to bear. And then, her small nightly escapes became a habit. Nineve would stir herself awake just as the sky was getting light, and bring herself with her cup of tea to enjoy the silence, leaving her home by the shore behind. She could sit here, away from the troubles of her small world, and watch as existence itself woke up. It was like an orchestra, and Nineve sat here so much that she felt she could summon the instruments by her mind. The first thing was the smell. Sweet, thick, and yeasty billows of steam rose from the house furthest west. Its solo never lasted long. The trill of birds warbled soon after, as if the excitement of their favorite snack brought them to the waking world. Some days, when Nineve was perfectly still for long enough, one of the blue things would flit around her, singing a sweet whisper into her pointed ear. Wind would carry itself up to her, weaving through her long dark curls. The sun would burn through the last bite of night and glow a brilliant pink across the sea to the north. It was the simple times like this that she most looked forward to. Nineve's plump lips settled delicately on the rim of her cup. The scent of cinnamon swirled in the air. The music had begun. Nineve smiled, waited patiently for the birds to start. She closed her eyes and tapped her finger lightly. Fog hung deep and heavy over the ocean and dusted its way through the winding, wild meadow of her village. Nineve whistled into the air. Only silence met her. She whistled again, serenity falling from her face. Surely the bluebirds would have sung something by now. Her dark eyes cast themselves over the sea.
Maybe the sun is late.
Nineve murmured an impossibility to herself. But hearing herself mutter was better than the silence she felt drowned in. She caught movement on the horizon.
There! Wait, what?
It wasn't the gentle glow of dawn, no. Dark, tiny clouds rolled themselves over the waves, appearing in and out of the fog. Nineve stood. She was interested, curious. Nothing new ever happened here, and she couldn't help but be intrigued. The shadows grew larger, as if the clouds were careening towards the land. They curled and twisted in strange ways, looking odd and too stiff. And yet some parts of them still billowed in the strong ocean winds. Nineve furrowed her brow. Within a blink, it seemed like the sea was swallowed in darkness. Nineve's chest burned, but she stayed frozen to the spot. They were close enough now. People. People on boats so curved that the wood itself looked wicked. The young woman blinked again. A flash of a dream came. She willed it away. The ships were close now, and leading the pack was a figure in rich violet armor on the back of an impossibly large serpent. Nineve blinked. The color of blood filled her mind. She flung herself back to the present. The figure raised their arm. The shine of a blade sparkled in the light of the rising sun. Ebony fingers lost their grip on the cup. Nineve bit back a wail as the tea boiled her hands. Against her will, she crumpled to the ground, her fingers grasping each other so hard that she dared to think they would stay there forever.
No! No!
Nineve dug her elbows into the ground, scrambling to her feet. She couldn't think through the pain. The woman only managed one thing.
Run!
Her heart roared in her ears as she stumbled her way down the hill. Nineve felt it was much steeper than she remembered, and she tripped over her skirt with every step she took. She hit the ground, once, twice. Every time she had to stand, her hands screeched in protest. By the time she was at the bottom, her people were screaming. She raced into the village, praying to any god who would hear her, to rescue her peaceful lands. Nineve was far from the shore, and had to weave through the village to get there.
Please hide! Please hide!
It was a weak beg that no one had any hope of hearing. She let her head drop and forced herself to keep running. With every breath, she desperately wanted to collapse to the ground. Her blood surged through her like frantic drums, beating so hard that her vision swam. The top of Nineve's head slammed into a wall. She was stunned still. The voice was far, arms wrapped around her, keeping her upright. Not a wall, a person. She looked up. A soft belly and large beard met her gaze.
Nineve, answer me!
Taraneth.
Nineve, listen to me. You must run. Far from the shore, deep into the forest, southwest. Do you understand?
My family.
They've already run! They're not fools enough to stay!
His hazel eyes locked onto hers. His spirit willed hers to strength. Nineve tried to push away. Taraneth held fast. She realized now that he was holding a fishing spear. Nineve searched him for a lie, but his eyes were wide and wild, and all she saw was desperation thrumming in him. Frantic, she turned her head back round. Heat rose in black plumes from the shoreline. Nineve blinked. A wicked smile. Fire.
They're burning everything!
Desperation puppeteered her. She flailed against him. Taraneth's arms let her free. In surprise, she stumbled away and looked at him. He was crying. The baker kept his eyes on her. He simply nodded.
Yes, Nineve. Yes, they are. Now go! Go!
Nineve nodded, took a step back, then another, then turned on her toes and started to run. With every blink, her mind plagued her with more crimson visions, and she grasped her temples, as if she could squeeze the thought from her skull. Nineve ran faster, trying to outrun whatever nightmare she had conjured.
Is this all my fault?
She couldn't help but wonder. It was sickeningly familiar to her night terrors. Had she angered a god? Nineve couldn't piece it together, not as she cried and not as she ran. But if it was her fault, she should take responsibility. As the words formed in her mind, she slowed to a stop. One more step, and she'd be past the last house. Nineve looked back at her village. Everything she loved was engulfed in flame and blood. Rage churned deep within her. She took a breath, calm and collected this time. She snatched a pitchfork from the house beside her, now empty and abandoned. Nineve hoped they had run far. The woman walked into the fires of decimation. There was not much left for these dark warriors to destroy, except for her. Fear clung to the marrow of her bones, but still, she walked. A man, head to toe in black leathers, strolled into a house on Nineve's left. This was their medicine woman's home. This horrible stranger had kicked down the door and was making a racket. Protectiveness boiled under Nineve's skin. The young woman slipped off her boots, abandoned them. She followed the man's footprints, all bloody and sunken into the ground. She passed the wooden threshold. Nineve had hardly a clue of what she was doing. She had never felt the power of herself before. She shifted her weight gently, carefully, over the floor beneath her. She was not graceful and had to take all measures to be so. The young man was rifling through the kitchen. Nineve could hear his nasty lips smack together.
Fools don't know how to make a decent breakfast. Ugh.
The leathers squeaked as he moved around. Nineve crouched behind a chair, willed her breathing to silence. His weapon had been left on the ground, unattended. It was small, and not as curved as the blade his leader had, and on the ground, it didn't look half as impressive as she imagined it should have been. Chewing kept her keen ears locked onto him. She hardly needed to look. Her grip tightened painfully around her pitchfork. But Nineve couldn't feel it. Not the pain of her hands, only the pain of loss. It stirred her into an unfathomable rage. Slowly, she rose from her hiding spot and stepped closer. Nineve kept her eyes on him. She was out in the open. If he turned around now, she'd have to stare at him as he collapsed under her. It was a thought that almost shook her resolve. He was still eating. Nineve reared up, her muscles tensed. The light of the fires lit the healer's home from the outside. It shined red and fiery in the gleam of the trident she held. One deep inhale. Now! It wasn't ceremonious. She was stunned to silence, but still drove the weapon deeper into him until she felt the wood of the cabinet on the other side. The man flailed violently, ripping his wounds wider as he did. Every time he tried to turn, the end of the pitchfork would catch on the wall, wriggling the blades inside him. Blood pooled under his black boots. Nineve felt ill. She couldn't watch anymore. All the wrath she felt was gone. Nineve stumbled away from the house, her burned hands covering her ears. She fell to her knees, unable to believe, unable to understand what her world had turned into. Nineve retched. Her ears rang so loud that she couldn't hear the chains until they were on her. She was whipped back to alertness in one swoop. Her forearm sliced open, and a bruise instantly blossomed. Nineve rolled to her back, terror anew in her chest. A shadow made of violet iron loomed over her. Eyes were the only human thing on it she could find, but even those gleamed in animalistic gold. The door slammed open, and the impaled man slid himself along the ground, coating the grass with blood. The end of the pitchfork swung back and forth as he drug himself forward. His black gaze was locked onto the young woman, and red foam burbled over the edges of his thin lips. A mud-coated hand pointed to her savagely, shaking with effort. Nineve looked up at the Shadow Man. Confusion clouded in those predator eyes as he gazed at the dying man. He walked over to the man on the ground, who looked so much like a boy now that he was gasping for his last breath. The Shadow Man crouched. His subordinate grasped lovingly onto his foot.
Fucking woman did this to me!
Really now?
An interest rumbled in that dark chest. His voice wormed its way into Nineve's skull like a parasite. Without another word, he stood.
Father, help me!
The Shadow Man stared at Nineve now, as if assessing her. He paid the boy no mind. Nineve could only stare back. At his command, the weak thing turned from speaking words to softly crying. A dark boot hovered itself over exposed neck. A vengeful delight sprouted over his golden eyes, shadowing the confusion. Nineve cowered under his gaze. It was like watching someone pull a dark cloak over the sun, shrouding whatever brightness was there.
I have no need for the weak.
With a sickening crunch, he sunk his weight onto the boy's neck. Nineve dug her heels into the ground, desperate to move away from him.
Gods, please save me from this nightmare.
With a quiet intimidation, he walked toward her. He placed his foot just above her knee, the foot that killed his own son. Nineve stopped moving, as if his presence made existence itself a sin. He laughed at her prayer.
You took part in the nightmare, and now you're begging for your gods to save you?
Nineve turned her head away from the corpse. Her legs screamed in agony as the Shadow Man pushed his weight onto her. She writhed in pain.
No, you look. If you're brave enough to stab a man, at least be kind enough to watch him leave the earth.
Nineve couldn't fathom watching, let alone wanting to.
Now.
The man crouched down, looming over her. He took Nineve's face in his gauntlet. The metal cut into her skin, marking her with tiger scars. Nineve whimpered. His eyes seared into hers, as if he was setting fire to her soul simply by looking at her. Nineve was too afraid to look away. But the energy it took to keep his gaze drained her, and the edges of her vision swam deeply.
What am I to do with you?
You've been listening to Mythic Machinations Media. If you liked what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. It's the best way to help us grow and keep creating free, high-quality audio dramas. Your support keeps these stories free, so we can keep bringing strange worlds and mythic voices to life. Until next time, from the creator and everyone else involved, thank you again for listening.